Yeah.
All right. You all know my name. I'm up in Northeast Oregon, and we're here tonight to try and make some software work for you rather than the other way around. And I've been using the software, um, in all honesty, when I got my license in '99, I looked around. I started on paper, and I realized paper wasn't going to work for me. And I wrote my own logging software, and I started on it in 2000, and I used it till 2001 when I stumbled onto N3FJP, and his did everything that I was trying to make mine do. And so I jumped over to it, and I've been with it now for 22 years. And I'm not above changing. I needed to do everything as well as. So here is, well, jump ahead. Here's what it looks like right out of the box. When you load AC log, it looks like that. And that didn't match at all my paper log nor my database log that I wrote in RBase. But what's nice about it is that his software will let you move everything around, change the order. You can have multiple entry masks. All you need to do is load the one you need. So this is what I run currently on I have two large screen TVs that I use for a monitor. And if you'll notice on the right hand, right down here, you see how this box here hides part of that? That's the name of the database that you're using. And so when I'm on a laptop, I don't use the same setup as I do, on my large monitor. So what I did was I shifted time off down below, because usually that's about the last thing that I use. So I can move it around a little bit and it doesn't bother me. But just because I use my log this way doesn't mean you have to. I've given you that one that's called the master. I think there's two masters in there. One's a laptop and one's the one for my large screen. That would give you a good starting point if you don't want to start where Scott has you start after tonight. But I'll show you how to move everything around and how to make it fit what you want to do. So this is what I use for my day-to-day. If I'm on a laptop, I use this particular screen. If I'm on, I don't know why that got big. If I'm on my large monitors, this is the way they're arranged. And not only do I do that, but when I'm out and doing an activation for POTA, I merely load up another screen, and all I have to do is I send out a CQ, they respond, call sign comes here, I put down what I send them, I record what they send me, and if it's a park to park, I put their information here. If they give it to me, I'll put this information in. If not, it'll automatically fill in for me. And all of this down here is automatically filled in for me. I have to put my park number in one time, and I'm done. So if you're going to be doing any POTA work, it's real convenient. I have a real small laptop that I put this on, take it with me. It has about a 10-hour battery life. I don't think I could possibly do a 10-hour POTA activation. It works very well. And I know that if you took a fall class from me, you heard us talk about Zombie Night for Halloween. Again, I have a different entry mask for it. And again, during Zombie, the exchange is call, signal report, the state they're in, their zombie number, their name, which isn't their real name, Gordon, are you Fester or is that Jeremy?
That's Jeremy. I'm Flash.
Flash, yeah, for Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
I should have remembered that. So it's a made-up name in here, and then it stays 5 and 995NN, but then if I send a different report, I can edit it. The bottom line down here is all automatically filled in. If you're working with one of the event or contest loggers, he uses NAQP for the SST, and for the MST, they use the CW Open logger because the exchange is very similar. And I'll show you how to set that up tonight. I run my radio room on one of these little mini PCs. They don't have a lot of power, but it does everything I need. It is about the size of if you stacked 4 cell phones, two in one stack and 2 in another stack. That's about the size of the little PC. A little bit bigger than a Raspberry Pi. This is an overview of how everything fits together, and we'll break it down piece by piece for you. And I started using a Win keyer because sometimes I run the Win for ICOM and I needed the COM port, so I couldn't send CW without putting a Win keyer in to give me a new COM port. But for tonight, we're going to take the Win for ICOM out of the picture. Everything talks to the 7300, and I gave you a link in the most recent email. There's a web page on Scott's website that will help you find your radio, what settings you need to do for rig control. But here's the rig control line and the CW circuit, and that's it. Any other logger that I am using works through AC log. So once you get AC log working properly, talking to whatever radio you have, and I'm using the 7300 as the standard. If you've got a different radio, out of this session, I'll work with you to try and help you get it going if you have a problem. But AC log talks to the radio, and then all of the other loggers talk to AC log, which then passes the request to the radio. So AC log is in here, it talks to the radio, and then I just put NAQP in here as an example. NAQP talks to AC log that then talks to the radio. It does that through an API, an application program interface. That just means that Scott wrote an API that runs on AC log, and then all the other software talks to it and through it to the radio. And then I shared with you a history file that has quite a few thousand entries in it. You'll see how that will make your life easier. And then I'll show you a way of loading information off a QRZ or a free website or from data that you take with you on your computer. Now, Todd, this is probably not something you're going to do on a mountaintop. You're probably not going to haul a computer up there.
No, I'm doing everything by hand on SOTA.
Right, and we'll show you how to get things entered after the fact into AC log. So the WinKeyer software can either reside in the event software or in AC log, and the event software will talk to it and then to the radio. And it's set up, when we go live, I'll show you how to get to this. It's set up here. You have to tell it what COM port the WinKeyer is running on, and then you click on Configure WinKeyer. It brings up this screen. The first thing you do is tell it to open it, and that lets the software talk to the COM port. It will report if the COM port is busy or not. And then I always uncheck the speed pot because I control the speed from my keyboard. You want to set the side tone to one you can hear, and you're done. You can also, so I went by that too quick, you can also take the WinKeyer out of the picture, and from within the software, you can tell the software to talk directly to the radio and do your CW keying for you, provided you have an open COM port. If I'm not running my Win for ICOM, COM9 opens up. I can use the DTR, the data ready keyer line on the serial port, and then it will send out whatever is programmed in here. So you don't have to have WinKeyer. It just, there's a couple of reasons why you may want it. Setting up rig control. We're going to go live with all this. This is just a quick overview. For the ICOM, the newer radios, you pick ICOM 2. An older radio like the 706 that I've got here that I'll be using for demo tonight, that is the original ICOM. You need to give it a valid COM port. Check your COM port settings. Make sure the software matches what you've got. The fastest that ICOM CIV can run is 19.2, so I always push it up there. You need to give it the command to read frequency and mode. The red arrow is pointing to the hexadecimal code that represents whatever radio you're talking to. Now, if you're working with the Yaesu, they have a different method in here of setting that up. I put this in an email for you. A couple of websites you may want to get into. One is in this website, Scott goes right down through the menu items, such as we're going to do a little bit tonight, and gives you help with each menu item. The other is, on this web page, he has a lot of the most commonly used radios, and it tells you what settings to put in the rig control so that the software will talk to the radio you have. So let's go live. Here is the laptop version of the way I have it set up. Any questions before I jump into here? All right. Oh, go ahead, Don.
How do you get that? I got the files all loaded in my machine, but how do I get the setup to be displayed? The default setup you have.
There's a document in there that tells you what file to put in what directory. Open that up and get the files moved. And then here in a minute, I'm going to show you how to open them.
Okay. Yeah, I got all the files moved in the right place. So.
Okay, good enough. All right. Good question. Okay. So I'm going to work through file and then take questions. Backup is what it says. If you have a large log and you want to create a backup of that, you can do that. Click here. It'll bring up a dialog box where it says what file name do you want, and where do you want it to go. New, you can open a new log, and when I go out for a POTA activation, I open a new log, and for the name of the log, I put the location using the POTA K code and the date, and that becomes the log for that location. For my base, I just have been running the same log since I set it up in about 2001. This will let you open a different database. So for example, when I go up to the cabin up on the mountaintop, I run a database from there, because when I do my log of the world reporting, I need to change it. So I have a database for there. And then when I get back, I do merge that into my master station. But this lets me easily do my log of the world reporting. I have a separate database for zombie night, and I can pull those up just whenever I need by using the file open. This will let you save the current log under a different name. This lets you print it. I have thousands and thousands of entries. I've never printed the full log. Print address will let you, if you're still sending out cards, this will let you print. If you got a printer set up for it, it'll print label, or it will print directly on a QSL card. And you can define how many labels are on the paper and set it all up. I don't do paper cards anymore, so I just never use that. I use the heck out of import and export ADI. If I do a POTA activation, that does go in my station log. So I export it from POTA into ADI, and then I import it on my station log. And I transfer it through my file server here, so I don't use a thumb drive or anything, but you can use a thumb drive, a little memory cube, an SD card, anything. Transfer via API, I never do from AC log. However, I do it from all of my event and contest logs, and I'll show you how that works and how easy it is to get your log from an event log into your station log. Remove duplicates, I don't run that because sometimes I work a duplicate. In the 7QP, you can have what they call a county boundary, county border. And they could be sitting on 2 or 3 counties, and AC log thinks that those are duplicates. So I don't run that. I don't want to delete those. I do occasionally sort log on date. If I do a POTA, or if I'm up at the cabin and I create a log and I get back home and I'm 2 or 3 days getting it merged in, they'll be out of date order. So then I just click sort log on date, and then it will automatically order them for me. Backup options. This lets you say, here's how I want to back up. So I have an external drive attached on the station. It's actually a USB drive. So every time I close the program, it creates a new backup. I leave the program running on my station 24/7. So once a week, it creates a new backup. Since I'm doing it weekly, I don't also do it monthly. But you can manage when and how you get a backup made. Here is where AC log is looking for files that it will use. For example, I had you put the contest history in the shared directory, and that's because I know that's where it looks for it. Country files go into shared directory. The log that I currently have open is on my C drive under my documents in a folder directory, N3FJP. If you don't know where to find something, look here, it will help you find it. This is the way that you can manually update the country file, so you keep your country file current. I'm set up so that when it gets updated, it automatically downloads that every time I start the software. But on my station log, it doesn't get restarted. So I just come in here and manually download the update. And it's really quick. And it's just that quickly, it's re-downloaded the country file. Watch list is something that you can use. And I put a couple of things in here. Ryan took the class back in last spring, and W6L I put in because that came out of the Route 66 on the air event. And so if they show up, and to get this work, you have to have your DX reporting turned on. But if they show up in that report, you'll actually get a notice. And once they're in here, so if I wanted to watch for Gordon to show up, I would just put him in here. Save it. And then if I work Gordon, I get a little pop-up that says, hey, you wanted to watch for Gordon. And if you don't need him again, you can delete him right now because he's in your log. And so I could delete that request to monitor him. I just touched escape. If you're in the middle of an entry and it turns out it's a busted contact, or for whatever reason, you just can touch escape and that whole entry goes away. The other is if you're a mouse-centric person, you can mouse up here and touch clear. I'm more of a keyboard person. It takes my hand away from the keyboard to find the mouse. That pretty much finishes the file section. Roger, I'll let you lead off. I know you have a question.
Okay, the question is more about you back when you were talking about setting up your databases and logs. The question is more about best practices for that. I pretty much do all my logging with N1MM. Then I use this N3FJP for kind of my master. I'll send an ADIF file and make a master of it. But if I were to log with like CWTs and SSTs with this, which I have the screen set up, should I make a separate database for each contest and then log each instance of the contest separately, or should I just have one big database like I've got now?
I have the answer to your question is a multi-part answer. The answer to your question really is yes. What I do is after I finish the event, I send everything in the event log to my station log.
Okay. Yeah.
Everything ends up in there. I also save each event I'm in, I save that log as an ADI file. So if I need to go back and look at it, I can go back and double check something.
So you said you had a were you saying earlier you had a zombie log or a zombie database?
I have a zombie mask for doing the zombie event.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying as far as
And
log,
during that event I use
database?
during that event I use the zombie database.
Okay, yeah. So you have a separate database for each contest then.
Yes. And then
That's what I was getting at.
no, for each contest, yes, but that's because I'm using the contest logger.
Well, can't you have a different log for each? I mean, the interface is the software that you run. Whether you run
When you're doing an event or a contest, you'd usually use a logger specifically written for that event.
right, that's the logger.
There's none written for zombie, and so I had to create one of my own.
Right, like for SST, you use the North American QSO. For CWT, there is a CWT one.
Yes.
that doesn't create a separate database, so that's just a log in that database, right?
No, it creates a separate.
Oh, okay.
Hang on to that question, and when we get up to the SST logger, I can show you a little better.
Okay.
And I can show you the practice I use for when I create and what I do with it.
Okay, I'll hold it. Hold my water.
That's fine. It's a good question. I'm prepped for it. Any other questions on that file menu section? Any other questions on here, or we'll jump ahead? Next over is edit. And out of here, this typically is pretty obvious. You can highlight a bunch of records in the database and say that QSL was sent and received. I manually do it because I very seldom do a card where I physically mail a card. I email out cards. Some of you've got them, but I don't mail them anymore. So I manually go in, and I can show you that when we get on a live database. I manually go in and mark that I emailed the card. I do use this fill field, especially back before I started using QRZ. That would put the name of the operator and everything in for me. And so I would give it what I would do would be to highlight some record. So I could highlight these files, and it won't do anything because it looks in the comment field and all these fields that if they're blank, it'll fill them in. But since they're not blank, nothing would happen. But I would say fill the field determined by call for the selected record. I got a little pop-up box that says, do you really want to do this? It may be hard to recover from it. I'm going to tell it yes. And it went out, and you can see the green bar going across. It's matching records with QRZ, and it would pull the information about the operator's name, their location, and that would fill in any of these blanks. But they're already filled in, so it couldn't put anything in there. But I use that if I work FT8, because FT8 doesn't pull any of that information in. FT8, you only get their call sign, a signal report, and a grid. And so if I've worked in FT8, highlight those FT8s, tell it to fill in the field, and then I get their name, their county, other information about them. Okay, the other one that I use is bulk edit. And you need to be a little careful doing this because you can really lash things up. You give it a starting record number, an ending record number, what is currently in that field, and what you want it to be. You can say that case must match for upper lowercase, and then you need to pick out what field you want to work on. And I regularly have to change the contest ID because I set up a naming structure for the events I'm in. And then I tell it to begin edit, and it won't do anything because there's nothing there. But that way you can bulk edit a lot of records at one time. Any questions on that feature? Those features, the edit menu option? All right, now we're coming to the fun part. When you get into settings, when you first set up any of the loggers, you go into this setup, you put your call, you have to do it once, and then it will pull this out of the shared directory. Call sign, country, all this information goes in, and it stores it. This is a feature that I've set up, and I use it especially for POTA hunting. And so I always search for previous contact by call. And then I have other one set up as the SIG info, and that's where the activator is. That's the park, the code for the park. And so when I'm working POTA, and I'll show you how I use this in a bit, I put the POTA park in here. When I tab out, it says if I've contacted them before. If I've already worked them, that doesn't mean that I won't work them, but it means I may not put as much effort into them because I've already got them in the log. If they're really weak or can't hear them or something, I put minimal effort into that. I turn the alert function off because as soon as I put the call sign in and touch tab, I know if I've worked them before. I don't need to have an alert saying that it's a new call. I just don't need any of those alerts. So I turn it off. If you find value in it, I encourage you to use it. Here's the really fun part. Here's where you can load. Don, this takes your question. Here's where you can load the setup as those files that I gave you. So for example, I clicked on that load, and if you wanted to put the master AC log in, you would click on that and it would bring up this mask right here. And then it's going to tell you to restart. You have to restart so that the logger knows what fields are displayed and where.
That's not going to affect your current contacts in your.
Nope, not a bit. Not one bit. If you have a large enough screen, then you could use that large screen setup. Keep in mind the only difference is time off moves from here up to here. Let's see, I don't think I gave you the zombie, but that's right here if I wanted to load it. Here's my POTA. Here's a couple of POTAs where I had emailed guys that said they were using it. They sent me their configuration. I looked at it and tweaked it and ended up with one that I like. So Don, did that get your question? This is where you load the various entry masks that you can use.
Yeah, that worked. It changed my screen.
Good. All right, so I'm not going to load. Go ahead, Jonathan.
I think, I'm not sure this is on task, but like, do you have a way like on your POTA setup? I know it changes the mask. Does it, like, you have SOTA location on there? Do you have like POTA location on there or anything?
On the POTA mask?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Easiest way is to come back up here to when I had the POTA.
Oh, okay.
Okay, do you see down here where it says my SIG info?
Uh-huh.
That is my park.
Okay.
SIG info here is for a park that you're not at. In this instance, it'd be park to park.
I see.
And then if you look at the logger, here is SIG info here for if I'm hunting from home. This is where the park that the activator goes into. And we're going to look at how I use that here in a bit.
Which mask is that one you have up right now? Is that the
this is the one master for the laptop.
Got it.
But if you have a large screen, I would encourage you to put the other master up.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
This is one of the areas where I want to take questions as they come. The other thing that this entry does is let you customize your configuration. Here are all the fields that are tracked that you can put entries in. There are other fields that are tracked, but they're used, you don't enter anything into them. They're used for reporting purposes in the Cabrillo log and other places. So what you do if you want to move these around is you click this Enable Repositioning. Oh, and by the way, this visible, for example, 1010 is disabled. I don't work 1010, and so it's not clicked there. So it doesn't even show up on the screen. If there are any of these that are disabled that you would like to have, all you do is highlight it. Gordon, you work a lot of RagChew QSO, and you said you share age. If you wanted to capture age, highlight that, click visible, and that would put that on the form for you to move around. It's probably stuck in behind here. Oh, there it is, right there. Now I could move that to where it'd be useful. And to do that, you enable repositioning. Before you reposition, it wants you to save the current setup. And then you go into design. And then you can grab all of these elements and move them to wherever you want them. Whatever matches the order that you like. If you don't like having UTC on there, you can turn it off. If you don't like SOTA or POTA, you can turn them off. If you're not an SKCC or FIST member, sure, turn them off. And then once you've got everything set where you like it, you come back in that same entry, customize configuration, and then turn off the enable. And now, sorry, Gordon. Now as I tab through, I'm down here where it says power. I didn't change the tab order, so it's still going to stay in the same tab order, but it will move through all of those fields so you can put entry into it. To get it in proper tab order, same place, customize, and then notice that now date got moved. Date is where? Cleared out the bottom after power, and power is, I got stuck behind the SKCC. So you could grab power and move it down until it's in the proper place. Frequency, no, pardon me, date needed to be moved down. And eventually you'll get these so that as you tab through your log, they'll be in the proper sequence. Any questions on how to set up that mask so it works for you? Anybody's brain feeling like it's going on tilt? Jack, you got an adult beverage to keep your brain going? You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, I've got two, one for each hand. Well,
Good
actually, no,
job.
I'm using the mouse with the other hand.
Don't fall off your stool.
No.
Hey, can I ask just a this isn't specific to the software, but when you operate, and I guess it's probably different when you're doing contests and stuff, but just curious, or anybody else can answer this too. Like, do you usually have the logger like on a secondary screen or on the primary screen right in front of you, or like how do you? I know that's a highly preferential thing from person to person, but in general,
I have a logger in front of me at all times.
Okay, thanks.
Now, it could be a paper.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, Kevin,
Yeah,
I have a question here. And that
Okay.
is, if you want to, you've got gaps here between call and frequency. So if you go back up and then you put repositioning, then you can move them over. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, I
Otherwise,
would.
Otherwise, they're stationary and you can't move them.
Correct. You have to go in and tell it to reposition. You move them around to where they line up how you like them. I just didn't bother to tighten them up.
Okay, thank you.
But it's the same process. Okay. Jonathan, I always have a log. If I'm in a park, I have that laptop that I carry with me. Or I use hammers on a tablet. Here in the radio room, always got a log open. 24/7 it's open. That way I can run down, turn the radio on, make a quick contact if somebody is reported on the air. Jack, you've got your opened up. Are you questioned or?
No, so is there a way to change the size of the logging screen? Because there's not
Yes.
much landscape down there at the bottom, and all those boxes tend to bunch up on one another. So say you didn't want to see the first 20 or 30 or QSOs in your log. Is there any way to make that smaller so you can put more boxes below? I'm trying to move it, and I can't move it.
Yes, there is. I'll be getting to that in a second. Yes, there is. Good question. All right, any others before I jump? Jack, I put you on hold because we're coming up on that.
Oh, okay.
Before I get this back, I just clicked that repositioning again. And Gordon, here's where I'm moving, tightening things up. And then you can actually overlay that. I wouldn't recommend that. It blocks what you're seeing. Did that answer, Gordon?
Yes, it did.
Okay, good enough. So what I'm going to do now is so I can get back to where I like it to be, is I am going to reload, and it's going to tell me I have to start that over again. Oh, I had a QSO in there saying that it's going to lose the QSO. All right, so let's try that again. So I'm going to load a configuration. I'm loading the master for the laptop, and it's going to say I got to restart. Okay, now everything's back where it was. Going on in settings, other field, and here's where, to me, it was powerful. When I used my software, I had to go back in and reprogram it to get these fields renamed. And here you just go in. So when I wanted to start doing POTA, I put SIGINFO in as other 1, my SIGINFO as other 2, SOTA for 3, Zombie is 5, Straight Key 6. That leaves me 3 others I can play with. If you just want to set the others for POTA template, click on this and it will automatically make 1 and 2 SIGINFO and my SIGINFO. This says that when I'm entering for my SIGINFO, it looks at the previous record and will put the same information there again. So I only have to put the park I'm in once, and then it keeps getting carried forward as I make more contacts. Date, pretty obvious, is how do you want your date to appear? I kind of leave it standard North American, which is interesting because when I sign legal documents, I use the day, month spelled out year format so that there's no question. You know, if you put 1/10, is that day month or month day? But if I put 1 January, there's no question. Appearance. Jack, here's where you can start setting form size. And I could say that I want it to be 50% of the available screen. And again, it says I got to restart. And now notice that it's only using up just a small part of the screen. I could open up something else and have it available over here. I'm going to go back to a full screen so I can answer Jack's other question. The other is, how much do you want to see of the list of contacts? And here's where you can adjust that. So currently it's 5552. So I'm going to go 0.333. Jack, do you see how now where the contacts would be put in opens up all this space, and I could put more fields in here. I could make the comment section much larger, although I find that I never have exceeded that comment size. The comment's the one field where the longer you type, the more it goes down, and it opens up a scroll window here to the side. So Jack, did that help?
Oh, that answered the question. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of space you can take advantage of down at the bottom. I couldn't figure out how to use it. Yeah, that answered it. Thank you.
Once you get to using it, you'll actually find you like these filled up, because when we go live on my actual log, you'll see that a lot of stuff gets in here. By the way, H still got stuck in there accidentally. I forgot to turn it back off. So Gordon, I'm going to turn Age off if I can find it again. Okay. Under appearance, Todd, you commented you have trouble getting the colors to stick. The color scheme I use, if I have sent a contact to Log of the World or EQSL or QRZ, it turns it green. Any one of those three, well, Log of the World, you have to send it up there, then you have to check back later to make sure that it ran that batch and that it's actually up there, and then it'll turn green. If it's red, that means that somebody has put in a contact that I've not yet loaded up to wherever it came from. It could be a busted QSO where they went ahead and logged it and put it up. It could just be I hadn't got around to submitting my log yet. Not very often do I see red. The blue is real common. That means that I recorded a contact. I submitted it to the 3 logs, and one or more of them replied back that it was received, and now I have a confirmed contact up and down. So once you choose your color that you like, so right now my sent and received is this color blue, tell it okay, then you have to check this box to tell it to use those, otherwise it'll go back to the default.
Kevin?
Yeah, Roger.
So on that subject right there, so mine works just fine for the change color sent. It's gray until I send it to both QSL, Logbook of the World, and eLogs, and then it goes to green. I never ever see a red. I never ever see a blue. What's the probable cause of that? Probably
you didn't set this for sent and received. It defaults to opaque.
Well, no, it's selected. I mean, it's set just okay, exactly like yours is there.
And is this box checked?
Yes, it is.
And you never ever, are you going back in and asking for confirmation? That's a
In,
manual process.
You mean like in a EQSL?
In any of them.
Don't know.
Okay. Anybody care if
I do get confirmation. I mean, I get 10% or so in EQSL respond back with a log you when I put one out there. So
anybody care if I go ahead and take Roger's question here?
was it a different time?
No, no, because I didn't have that plugged in. So this is on my radio desk.
Right.
This is my live log. I have submitted all these. You can tell they're all green or red. And so I go into eLog.
Quick question. One question there, Kevin.
Yeah, Todd.
I upload or send that to Logbook of the World. I send that to QRZ. I do not send anything to the other one. The, EQSL. I don't do that.
Okay.
Is that why mine aren't turning green?
Well, hang on, because here's how they turn green. For EQSL, once you upload it, and you don't do that so it doesn't happen for you, it acknowledges and says at that moment that it confirmed it has it. So it confirmed sent, and it'll turn green. So you're not doing that, but what you also need to do is what I'm about to show you. So for EQSL, Roger, you need to come in here and say, give me everything since. It'll give you a date. And then KN6BAZ has confirmed our contact, and now that will turn blue.
Okay, I thought it was tied into EQSL. I thought it was an automated process. It's a manual. It's a pull. What you're saying?
Correct. You have to manually pull it.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
So I go in there, once a day or so and do this. And then you tell it done, and it will change that record to blue. Same way, Todd, for Log of the World, you have to go in, come on, and once you've done your upload, then you have to go in and say, give me everything since. And then when it acknowledges that you sent a contact up, it'll turn it green. When it acknowledges confirmation from the other side, it'll turn it blue. So I ask for everything since the 5th, and I've had one contact updated, and it should turn blue. Got to move myself so I can. I don't know where that was. It should have turned it blue.
Okay, I just did 1,200 contacts. It looks good.
Now they turned blue for you?
Blue and red. Yeah, there's some are red, some are
Okay.
blue.
Here is where you do QRZ. Same thing. Everything since the 5th. Ask for a date. And there they are. W7IY is updated but not confirmed. So it would only remain green. So I have W7IY confirmed that I put it up on QRZ, confirmed that I put it up on Logbook of the World, but nobody has given me, they've not confirmed the contact. So it's going to be green. These reds are where this KI50EZ, he gave me a confirmation through QRZ. Did that cover that for you, Roger?
Yes, sir. I'm updated and it's working just great.
Good. Okay. All right. Who had the question on colors and fonts? That was Todd. Todd.
What are your colors again? Can I see your colors, Kevin? 'Cause,
Yeah.
that worked. That was it. That was what
I use green for it's been sent up, and whoever I sent it to confirmed they have it.
Got it.
red is when they confirmed they have it. Blue is when I have a confirmation from the other operator.
Okay, because I've got everything green and blue and nothing red.
Probably you've not gone up and checked for confirmation. Where I did that, confirm everything after a certain date.
I did that, yeah. I just did that for both Logbook of the World, so nothing red. That's good though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it did change colors. That's what I was missing.
Good. Okay. So tonight was worthwhile. Those are the primary areas that I work. I do turn the grid lines on. It just helps me separate things visually. You can turn them off. And basically it just gives you a big white blank slate up here. I like to have them on. It just kind of helps a little bit. The other area that you can do for customizing is if you don't like frequency here and you would prefer it be over here, you can move it there. If it's not wide enough for you to see all the information, you can widen it. Anybody who's ever worked with a spreadsheet program knows that you can move those things around, widen the different columns up. Same concept. Okay. Any question on what to do with that? So frequency belongs over here after comment. Come on. After comment there. Any questions on moving those around? That does not change the content of the file or the structure of the file. It merely changes the way you get to see it. I can jump over here live and do that and then move back real quick. So let's see, we use frequency, right? And so I move frequency over here right after power, and it just, there's the data that's displayed there. It didn't change anything, just lets you see it in a different place. And then to move it back where it was, move it there, drop it, and now frequency is following comment. Here's where we get into the really fun stuff. By the way, I don't worry about displaying distances, kilometers or miles or anything. I don't worry about compass points. Primarily, I don't have a rotating antenna. So I'm not worried about trying to point my antenna at somebody.
I personally like the dark theme.
Oh yeah, for night.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll pop that in. If you're working at night, late, that screen is a little easier on your eye. And here's where I really like that column divider. And then to get out of it, it's just setting, and then appearance, and then go to light theme. Yeah, thanks, Roger. All right, here's the fun part. Getting AC log to talk to your radio. And this was that screen I showed you earlier. Yeah, Todd?
I got to take off, and I'm good with my rig interface. Sorry. This is all I got for tonight.
Okay. Yeah, when we get the video pushed out, you can finish up the tail end of it at your convenience, where I show you how I use the POTA logging and how I can activate the tuner from my keyboard and a bunch of other things that are good to know.
Yep. Thanks a lot. This is super helpful.
Okay.
Have a good evening,
All right.
guys. Good luck.
Anybody else need to bail?
See you, Todd.
All right. Jonathan, you've been quiet. Are you anything come to light that you need answered?
Well, I'm feverishly doing things like importing my log from Ham Radio Deluxe and changing the themes and watching you all at the same time. So
Okay,
I've already
good.
got it connected to my 7100, no problem. I just
That
need
was
to work.
why I wanted to have it on two monitors so you could work as we go. Good
Yep,
deal.
yeah, it's good.
Good deal. Okay, so on this desk here, I'm talking to a 706 Mark II-G. So it uses the old ICOM, and the COM port that came in is COM6. The CIV maximum speed is 19.2. It's an 8 data bit, one stop bit. Connection power really could be none, I believe. I don't think it matters. Polling rate, push it up as fast as you can get it to go, so it's constantly getting that update. And then I'll just spin the dial. Oh, then you need to click on test if it's not already running, and spin the dial. And if it follows with you, you're good to go. And then to check and see if you can change frequency from within AC log down here in the lower right. It has a 15-meter frequency. You can click on send, and the radio should change band for you to 15-meter. And it changed mode from CW to sideband. So now I have AC log talking to the radio. And if you don't have the 7300, you'll need to go to that website and find out what settings you need to be. Did you get the settings, Jonathan, off the website
For the ICOM?
for the 7100?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I had to fit a little bit. But yeah, I'd had the contest logger working, because I just used it when I did SST. So I had done that a long time ago. I actually, at the beginning of this, had to buy my registration because I didn't realize it had amateur radio log installed on my computer for like a year. So anyways, yeah, I believe I did like a year ago. I think I went to that website, and then the forum there, they have people with the rigs, and I just kind of trial and error until I found one that worked, and then shared mine.
Good. But you want to set it up in AC log, and
Yeah, I've
not
done that.
actually, you don't want to set it up in the SST logger.
The contest log?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'll show you how you want it to set it up in a minute when we get there.
Okay, so so I'm fine on AC logger, but then I'll need to change my contest logger then?
That's correct.
Okay.
Only one log can talk to the radio directly at a time.
Okay, gotcha.
So any questions here on setting up your radio to talk to the logger or vice versa?
Got one.
Roger, go ahead.
You're my question mark, right?
Yeah.
So the ICOM remote software, will this work with that? Am I able to, if I have the remote software working from down here to my radio upstairs through my internet, my local internet here, can I work ACU with the ACL with that ICOM remote software?
I doubt it, because there's no direct connection between the computer you're on and the radio. You're working over the internet, correct? Or through a router of some kind.
Yeah, through a router. Yeah, I mean through a fiber. But I just wondered if ACU log is or AC log is software, and that software if you could get them to talk without
I doubt it.
using this interface.
I doubt it. The way that I work remote operation is that I'm using the computer in my radio room
Right, that's what
that is connected to the radio, and then I remote into that computer.
Oh, so your log is up there on that computer?
So here I am remoted into the radio room.
Okay. So
And
the
this
log
is
is on that computer that's connected to the radio.
the log is on the computer connected to the radio
I'm okay
in
with
my
that.
radio room.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I didn't think
And then
about it.
I'm remoted to the computer. So I'm computer to computer with the computer in the radio room talking directly to the radio.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
One thing to set is, especially on the newer radio, it doesn't matter so much on my older 706, but where I have filtering, good filtering on the 7300, every time I change band, if I don't click here, set this, it will reset my filter to a wide filter. And if I don't want the filter to change when I change band, I need to tell it not to change the filter. And so you would want to click here. It doesn't hurt anything on the old radio, because the older radio, if Todd was here, he'd tell you the filtering in it's not anywhere near as good as the newer radio. Once you have AC log talking to the radio, so you want to talk from the contest log to AC log, and that is done in settings down here. Remember I talked about the API? You want to turn on the API. It's got to be checked so that it's turned on. This, in effect, is a server. So AC log becomes a server and lets other things talk through it to whatever radio is attached to it. You can even use the API if you use FT8. You can tell it to listen for JTX, and when you get the little pop-up log that says that you want to log a contact, then it will flow through the API directly into AC log and log that contact out of FT8.
Kevin, where did you click to bring that up?
Good question. I'm sorry I did that too quickly. So it's under settings, API at the bottom,
Oh, okay.
and make sure it's enabled.
And I think you just answered a question I was going to ask you. So that when you looked at the list of rigs and rig setup, is that what the N3FJP API is? Do you have to have that selected in rig?
Not here, because here it's directly talking to the radio. So we're actually talking through a COM port attached to the computer directly to the radio. But when we get over to our event or contest log, when we go in to set up the rig interface, now you tell it to talk to the API. And see down here, it's saying it's talking to port 1100 on an MSI computer. And when I say test, it automatically picked it up. So now it is getting the frequency directly off the radio. Notice I'm changing band. Picking that up off the radio. I can come down here and tell it to change band from within the software, and it changed the band. So AC log always, always, always talks directly to the radio. All other loggers talk to the API.
So does that mean you have to have AC log open for like?
Correct. AC log is open 24/7 for me. Yeah. So AC log's the foundation that's got to be present. And to prove that it works, here is your NAQP or the SST logger, and then here is the CWT logger. Oops. And when I went to rig interface, I thought I missed it. It's set up for N3F, the API. And when I say test, it's picking up the frequency. So I have AC log talking to the radio and 2 contest logs talking to the radio. So effectively, I could be working 3 events with this all at the same time, and I can Alt Tab between the whatever log I need and bring up that specific log. And this is something that N1MM cannot do. It can only work one event at a time.
All right, I'm having trouble now because I had it already set up.
So you're on your NAQP, correct?
I'm on N3J or N3FJP, or the NAQP, yeah, contest log, and it's telling me how to. I've got
Well,
the
first
API set up.
let me back up. Did you, when you're looking at the rig interface and you tell it test, are you picking up the frequency on the radio?
Oh no, so I had to, because I had it set up so that the contest logger was directly connected to the radio, right? So I've set up the AC log, and that's set up now. And
Okay.
N3.
Sorry. In AC log,
Yeah.
when you bring up the rig control and you click test, do you get the frequency?
Yeah. AC log's working fine. They're
Good.
just both
Okay.
trying to use the same port to talk to my radio at the same time.
Right. So then you're going to go into the NAQP log and go to rig interface.
Right.
And all you got to do is click on the API.
I did that, but it gives me, so now it gives me an error, and that's what I'm working on fixing. It says you're already using port 1100 as a server to listen for incoming connections, so it can't be used. To use this port for rig interface, click Settings, Application Program Interface, the API, and disable the server on the form that appears.
Look on the SST NAQP log. Did you turn on that? Did you turn that on?
It was prior to this. So yeah,
Okay, turn it off.
And then,
because you can only have one program being the server.
Right.
So you only turn this on AC log and nowhere else.
Right, that's what I'm struggling. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, so it's settings, and then at the bottom API.
Okay.
And then make sure this is not clicked.
Wait, hold on. I'm working my way through a bunch of pop-ups. Okay, API, got it. Okay, and then make sure that the TCP is not clicked on that one. Okay,
yep.
Got it. All right, cool. Okay. I'm good now.
Now go to settings, rig interface, and click on the API and click on test, and then spin the dial on the radio, see if your frequency changes.
I think I need to restart the program because it's giving me the same error. So let me restart the. Sorry,
okay.
Guys.
Well, you get that brought back. I'm going to go ahead and continue on. We covered rig interface. Anybody got a question on rig interface? Because that's a fairly complex topic. Hey, Jeremy, I didn't know you snuck in.
Hey, yep. It was just a silent bystander just watching.
That's fine. I had everybody turned off so I could see my screen.
But actually, I do need to head out. I was just going to say goodbye, but interesting watching you work with the software.
I'm glad you dropped in for a bit.
Hey, thanks for the pick, Jeremy. That was perfect.
Well, good. Yeah, I'll send you how I did that.
All right.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
See you later, Jeremy. Okay, Mick, you remember going through all this? Are you still tracking with us?
After that, I'm mute. Yes, I'm going through it all. And I've got almost identical to what you've got set up here.
Yeah, port numbers might change because I'm on a different computer now.
Exactly. Yep.
Yep. Okay, Larry, you tracking?
Yes, sir. This looks a whole lot like, it reminds me a whole lot of the HRD. I dabbled in that about a year and a half ago, and never got off the ground. It worked, but never did engage it. So
yeah. What I like
I don't-
about this one is all of the contest and event loggers that you can have open at once.
I got away today without my cat cable, so I'm kind of hamstrung. I got all the files and I got my notes, and
It's okay. We'll get the video out so you can follow it later.
Kevin?
Yeah, Jim, I was going to come to you next.
Yeah, I'm about ready to fall asleep here, but yeah, I'm following you quite well.
Okay.
Since you and I set that up on my computer, so a lot of this is a refresher. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that video too, so that
Okay.
I can go back and take a look at it.
I'm going to show a new trick that you've never seen before in the next segment. So if you can hold on a few more minutes till we get through the keyer setup, you'll get to see a real new, unique trick that your 7300 will like.
Okay.
So
give me just a few minutes. Jack, how are you doing?
So let me just recap. So AC log select rig should be N3FJP, the API, and you need to enable. I didn't get that right.
No, AC log will have a true COM port assigned to it.
So assign that to the radio that you're attached to.
Correct.
And the contest logs get N3FJP API?
Correct.
Oh, okay. I heard that backwards then. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, remember, AC logs, the foundation, everything goes through it. So you get it to talk to the radio, and then you just tell all the other loggers to talk to AC log. AC log does the heavy lifting. All right? Gordon, how you doing? Good. Good, Jonathan.
I find it very interesting, but I'm about falling asleep. So
you can't leave. You got the recording.
Oh, but you can mesh them together, though.
Yeah, I'll if you can get it. If you have to leave, I will marry them up and get what I have and what you send me put together. It'll take me a day or two to get it put out. Don, how are you? Are you tracking with me? Are you? Have you got any questions that I've not hit on?
Well, I didn't know what NAQP was, so I just downloaded it and installed it. So
okay,
I figured that out.
Okay, they use NAQP, and I'll show you how to set it up in a second for the SST.
Okay.
All right, so Jonathan, now you've got AC log talking to the radio.
Yeah, everything's tracking the frequency now.
Good, and then the SST is talking to AC log. Good deal. Right. Okay. Roger, how are you doing? And then I will have checked with everybody.
Oh yeah, I'm copacetic. I've got everything working. I'm just playing with other stuff now until you get to another topic I've got.
All right, so I'm going to put everybody back out here on quiet, ignore. The next area to talk about is in AC log, we want to set up so that it will send CW for us. So it's under settings, transmit, CW setup, and you're going to get a mask like this. I'm currently set up to go through a wind keyer. And so COM13 I set up on all my laptops and my radio computer. I use that COM port to talk to a wind keyer. So I tell it I'm running wind keyer, and then to configure it, I have to open it. If it opens successfully, then I'm good to go. The other is I turn off the speed pot and I set the tone that I want to run at. And I run typically either 600 or 800 hertz. And then what speed? And I let it start around 19 because then I adjust it.
I have a really quick, simple question. Is WindKeyer, that's something you physically connected to your computer? That's not just software based, correct?
That is correct. It is a physical device.
Thank you.
The WindKeyer USB is like $139.
Looks like.
And the WindKeyer Mini is I want to say $79. And that includes cabling. All right. We're going to talk about how to do it without the wind keyer in a minute. The other thing you do is to set up everything that you would want to send if you were doing it manually. If you'll notice, this is primarily set up for POTA and SOTA. So for POTA, I would send my call sign. They would come back and say they got me. They would send a signal report, and I would send Roger, thank you. And you see these little asterisks right here? There's a table over here in the description area that says if you put an asterisk in there, that will send the RST as defined in the logger. And so when I start to work somebody, so let's say I'm working AA7TQ and I'm hearing him pretty good, but not perfect. So I'm going to send him a 579. So when I send back to him, I can touch F6. And all of that code is because I have it programmed here for F6. And it reads the signal report from the log entry and sends it. So these you need to go in and manually set up. Here's the new one that I was going to mention, that I mentioned to Jim. If you put the RI colon, that is a rig interface command. And I gave you a little text file that says what that means. Now let me get back to where I should be. So that RI colon FE RA is a generic for the radio ID. So I put 94 in there for the 7300. E0 1C 0102 FD. They all end with FD. That turns on the tuner. So I'm not trying to reach over to the radio and find that little bitty button that's tucked in there on the radio to activate the tuner from my logger. All I need to do is get the logger back up here. All I need to do is touch F11. You're not going to see it, but that just activated the tuner on my radio, and it tuned until it had a match. Now this radio is plugged into a dummy load, so it's got a match. So that command that I showed you, RI colon FE, I'm on the 706, so it's a 00 here. E0 1C 0102 FD, that activated the tuner. So I can keep my hand on the keyboard and not be reaching over to the radio to tune up if I need to.
Really nice.
Also, through the wind keyer, if you have one, notice that right here I put an underscore in front of the characters BK. Wind keyer interprets that to mean that is not the letter BK, but that is actually a command. So it sends BK as BK and not as a break back to you. And so it's a pro sign. It doesn't send BK, it sends BK.
Aren't there ones that you can change the speed, the word speed to with, like
Correct.
Than listening signs?
Correct. If you look down here in the list of things you can do, you can put a parenthesis around some text. Open paren will speed it up. Closed paren will slow it down. You can also put in $. AR is a less than, BT is an equal, SK is greater than, AS for wait is the @ sign. So you can program all of those into your keyer. Now we don't show this to you when you're in the beginning class because you guys would all be cheating and you'd be running a keyer instead of learning to handle your paddle and manage it. But now that you're moving up, it's time that you start learning about these things. So AC log is talking to a wind keyer that's talking to the radio. Everybody got that? So what happens when I get out here to the SST? SST, I'm going to talk to the API. And now whatever I have programmed in here for the function key, when I touch that function key, is sent to AC log, and then to the keyer, and then to the radio. And I'll demonstrate that here in a second. So once you have AC log talking to the radio for keying, all you need to do for all of your other contest logs or event log is activate the API. And again, I think it was Jonathan pointed out, AC log has got to be there. That's your foundation. It's always turned on first. Right? So to present how that works, I'm going to use F9, and I'll start F9 here for AC log. Come on. F9 for AC log sends DE NB70. It's going to send whatever call sign's in here because of that $sign, and then it's going to send Gordon an RST. So here's F9 from AC log. Okay, did you hear the pro sign set as a pro sign? Mm-hmm. Okay. The other is, now that I've got that set up, if I touch the down arrow, get out of there, the down arrow changes the speed. I was at 18 word per minute. I've touched it, now I'm down at 15. Do you see the yellow flashing up there quickly, briefly? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25. I can change the speed of the keyer by just touching the up-down arrow. I'm going to go now to the SST, and when I touch F9, it's going to send a question mark at 18 word per minute. When I go to the CWT logger, when I touch F9, it sent a series of V's. So each software has its own CW definition. They're all open at the same time. I'm just choosing which one I want to go to. I can click off the taskbar, or I can Alt-Tab between them. So here I am on the CWT, F9 gets the V's. Here I am on the SST, it's a question mark. And here I am over on ACL, and it's going to send that big long text to Gordon. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Tell me if you can copy it. Anybody copy that?
I could read it.
I got two A's.
Yeah, the two A's at the beginning. Good job. Good job. All right. So, Jim, did you see that new feature?
About the tuner?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the information you downloaded is that string of characters. I have just set F11 on all my software. F11 activates tuner now. And since I've switched over to WinKeyer, rather than letting the computer do the keying, I can put out the pro signs that are not pre-recorded in the software, such as the BK and a few others. And that's just put the underscore in front of it. To set up so that if you don't have a WinKeyer, the difference is you pick a COM port, and I don't have one available right now, so I'm going to choose 13, but it won't work. And you have to choose whether DTR or RTS is the signal line to activate. And in the 7300, you go in and tell it it's under USB COM settings. You tell it DTR for CW and RTS for RTTY. And then when the DTR goes high, it will send the code in the pattern that it receives. And it's not going to work because that strictly is the WinKeyer. I don't have a port available. But if I had a port available, then this would work. And it would go from the software. The reason that I say that there are advantages to having the WinKeyer, even though this can do it, is that if you have a slower CPU on your computer, it might be busy talking to another program and it will mangle your CW. If you have the WinKeyer, everything is unloaded onto the WinKeyer to send the code. And no matter what your CPU is doing, the WinKeyer will send out good code. So there is an actual good reason for having it, even if you don't need it. I originally put it in because I also, on my radio desk, run Win for ICOM, and I needed that COM port that I used to use for CW keying. All right, so questions on setting up the CW. All right, DX spotting. To turn it on, you configure it. And here's where you say, what spot feed do I want? I sometimes use the RBN that we've shared with you in the CW class, because that will just specifically give me stations that are being spotted on the RBN. DX spots is more of a general spot. So if I'm in a CWT, I will use the RBN. In all honesty, I don't even turn that on for CWT. Most of the time when I want DX spots on, or DX spotting, I use dxspots.com, software port 23. Put your call sign in here and then enable it. And you should get a message that looks like this. And you go down to the bottom right and say you're done. And then now down at the bottom of the screen, and now it pushes everything up. So this part stays the same size, but it pushes up and makes this area smaller. And that was why I had said earlier, you may not want to make this area smaller because there are some things you can do that will make it smaller. But let's say that I want to work this guy in San Eustatius there. So all I have to do is click on that spot and watch the frequency up there in the log. I click on it, it puts the call sign in the call spot, it switches my radio to the frequency that they're on, it starts the log for the country they're in, starts the time on, it initializes out of default the signal report, but I can go in here and I can change it. Let's say they give me a 5.5 and I give them 5.5, I change it. And it starts the contact for you. It gets the radio on frequency, and then all I have to do is touch F11. My auto tuner kicks in, and now I'm ready to go on that frequency.
Kevin, I had it in small print there. How did you get? I spot from VE7CC. How do you get to the RBN spotter?
All right. So what I'm going to do is go back into DX spotting, configure, and I'm going to turn off. And then you go here to the Telnet host where you have VE7CC. I normally run dxspots.com, but all you do is go in there and type in rbn.telegraphy.de, and then it uses software port 7000. And then when you connect to it, again, you'll get a message down here that says you're in there, and now all of the spots are what are showing up on the RBN. Did that get it for you? All right, so did that get it for you?
It did it, thank you.
You're welcome.
How do you keep RBN telegraphy in there?
I just don't take it out.
RBN.telegraphy.de.
Yeah, you got to get that dot between the N and the T and the Y and the D. rbn.telegraphy.de. Software port 7000.
Got it. Yep.
I don't, how do you add? I don't even know how to get to where I can add it.
You see, make sure that it's not enabled.
Okay.
And then you come over here. Do you see where it says Telnet host?
Yep.
You just click in there and type.
Oh, you just type, and it won't delete the other one?
Nope.
Okay.
It should just put them into a drop down.
You just hit enter after you type it in?
No.
Oh.
You just go over and tell it to enable.
Okay, got it.
Mine will not keep it in that drop down. Any reason?
Oh, mine froze, yeah. Let's see.
Did you put the port number in, Mick?
And it seems to work.
You got to disable. You got to disable it first.
Did you? Is this enabled?
No.
Okay.
So I keyed it all in and enabled it, and it appeared to work. However, when I went back to dxspots.com, it erased rbn.telegraphy.de.
It's not in the drop. It's not in the drop down. You can't scroll down to it.
No.
No. I don't have an answer for you.
Okay.
But I'll make a note and research it.
I'll do the same. Low
sorry,
priority.
this might be a dumb question. The port number, like as long as it was working, like the port number worked for me. My port number is obviously different than yours, and it worked for me for dxspots.com. But it's not.
Well, dxspots.com uses port 23.
Oh, okay. So I do need to change the port for RBN telegraphy then?
Correct, to 7000.
Oh. Well, okay. That's way beyond me. Is that a port on my computer or is that a port on the server?
Port on the computer.
Okay.
It's a software port
I'm getting out of my league.
that is used for internet communication.
Okay.
I have to get back to you, Mick. I don't have an answer because that's not the behavior I have.
No rush.
Roger,
No rush.
did you get that put in there?
I did, and I confirmed what Mick was saying that it does delete. If you go back to I go back to VE 7CC, it deletes out the RBN.telegraphy. It's not in the drop down anymore. So, but I know how to type it in now, so I'm good.
So I've enabled it, and I'm getting information from it. So I take it off, and when I hit the drop down, it's there. So I'm going to have to get back to you.
I'm only getting 3 drop downs.
I'm going to have to get back to you.
No rush.
That's an incredible feature.
Yeah.
I wonder if I go delete one of the other hosts from the list, if it'll let me have that one.
I don't have an answer. I don't know. It's not the behavior I've ever seen.
I don't know who WB3FFB is. I'm going to get rid of him. See if it lets
Yeah,
me
I use either VE7CC or DX spots, and I'll be honest, I use DX spots unless they go down once or twice a year, and then I go to VE7.
Yeah, I deleted that WB one from the list, and now the telegraphy's in there. So apparently my list is only 3 deep. There's probably some setting somewhere that you tell it how deep you want the telnet host list to be.
I'll research it and get back to the group. I just don't have an answer, to be honest.
Yeah, I bet there's how many old things do you want to see? I think.
Yeah. There's got to be a setting somewhere. You're right. I don't know what it is. So at any rate,
I'm going to see it now.
At any rate, all you do is pick from the list, and it not only moves your radio to the frequency, it puts it in the proper mode, and then puts the call sign in to get you started.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I just
in that same
for like 2 minutes doing that. All these people seeing what I could receive. That's amazing.
It's fun. In that same area, if you go into DX spotting, there's a feature down there called band map. And when you turn that on, I got to turn everybody off. Are you seeing on the right side of my screen?
Yes, the band map.
There's a band map there for 40 meter with a couple of stations on it.
Yes.
So when I click on this station here, V3, notice it retunes my radio and puts V31DL in Belize into the log.
Is this why you like this better than Ham Radio Deluxe?
One of many reasons.
This is awesome.
The other is if I change band, I'm on 40 meter. If I go to 20 meter, I get a whole different group of stations. Not very many because it's the wrong time of night to be on 20 meter. But again, I could work that VE2 station by clicking on it. It now tuned my radio. Well, it didn't tune it. It changed frequency. I don't know what this is going on here. It's something bad coming out of QRZ. Probably a keyboard text that I can't display. But it's got VE2 YFI in the log. He's on CW. And then I would touch F11. It matched the frequency to the antenna. Conversely, let's go down. Nothing showing in the 160 band. I can't work it anyway. If you have a mouse with a scroll button on it, if you scroll up and down, it will show you more of the band. Scrolling down gives you more of the band. Scrolling up gives you a little bit less. Okay, and then if you want to shut that off, there's an X up the top. You click it, bam, it's gone.
Yeah, this is all a game changer. Big time.
And I'm going to shut off DX spotting for now. And under settings, there's a network. If you're working field day or something like that, you would be able to come in here and it would report what the other stations on the network that are all tied to one common log. And this is, you can send messages to everybody in that network. So if you're at a multi-station event and you're all tied together on a network, it will show who's making contacts and where they're making them.
Oh, nice.
Scott is very conscious of sight impaired, and he works with sight impaired operators, and you can turn this on, and as you type in, it will tell you what you're typing. It'll tell you what frequency your radio is on. I mean, it just, everything about the event. And that's all done with pre-recorded messaging that comes from them. So if you know somebody who's sight impaired, this would be a good logger. RST setting, I use the default setting, but then I preset what they're going to be. So I use 599 as a preset and 5N for voice. But then in here I say to use the default. And then here's where you establish what your default will be. And you saw how easy it was to change it. We talked about the API, and that's it for settings. Any questions on that? Watch the video when I can get it out. Callbook is a very powerful feature. I've been running off of the free ham database. It's slower than if I had been running off QRZ. So if you have a QRZ account, you put your call sign here or whatever your username is on QRZ. They give you a password that you display, that you put in here. Here's the QRZ lookup that's put in there by Scott. You enable it. Oh, yeah, I forgot to turn the other one off. My fault. Okay. So now when I do a lookup, I'll continue to pick on Gordon. That way I don't hurt anybody else's feelings. Did you see how much quicker that came in? So if you don't have a QRZ, you can use Hamlib, which is free. Or what I prefer, and this is what I take with me on POTA activation, I don't use QRZ or Hamlib because I've got no internet, but I've downloaded the call data. Scott makes it available once a month. He downloads all the data from the FCC database. He manipulates it to a format good for here. And so all you do is enable that. So downloading is just a click there. There's 41 possible permutations of the call data. I bet Michelle's watching a Netflix movie. It's moving kind of slow. All right, so it's got it all. I tell it that I'm done. And now, when I search for Gordon, it's coming out of that database that's on this laptop. And so what I do is before I do a POTA activation, if I've not done one for a while, I bring this up, the logger up on the laptop, download all the update, take that with me, and I have the call data with me in the field. Get rid of this again. Any other questions on the call book? The Buckmaster, Database you have to buy. They put a new one out about once a year or something. This one's free. This one's a subscription. It's ham call over the internet. And so if you register for it, you've got to have paid them to get their login. Obviously, I only use QRZ as a paid. So questions on callbook? List? I just never use. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I can't. I got it connected to QRZ, but I can't bring up Gordon's name.
Did you go into QRZ and get your passcode?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So if I put AA7TQ in that call area, it'll bring up.
And then touch
Gordon's
tab.
name.
Then touch
Okay.
tab. And as soon as you tab out, it should do the lookup. Did that work, Don?
Even brings a
You're
picture of
muted,
him up
Don.
in his younger days.
It worked. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, as soon as you touch tab, it does the lookup. And if you're doing POTA, having that database right on your laptop is really convenient and fast.
It even brings a picture of him up when he had brown hair.
Yeah, if you turn that on. I tend not to turn that on.
How did you do that? I didn't see that.
Under callbook, QRZ, there's a checkbox here to open the image on the bio page.
And then you get to see my mug.
Yep, or whomever you're working. List I very seldom use. I sometimes by contest ID, I'll look up whoever I worked for an SST or CWT or something. Very seldom use it. Search, I do tend to use. What the caveat for doing a search is you have to touch the right key. You have to turn off rig interface so that no frequency is here. Otherwise, if I'm saying I want to see all my contacts with Bahrain, then it's going to look up all of them on with Bahrain on that frequency. Now I've got no data on this laptop, so I'm going to VPN over to my radio desk. So I go into settings, I go to rig interface, tell it none. I have no rig interface. I'm done. I touch escape to make sure everything's gone. And then I say, have I had any contacts with Bahrain? So whatever you put in here, I could say, I want to see contacts CW mode or SSB or whatever in Bahrain. Whatever field you have information in, that'll be part of the search criteria. I'm just going to say, look for Bahrain. And it says I've never had a contact with them. So I get rid of that. So let's see, how about kind of an unusual one, San Vicente. So I'm looking for San Vicente down in the Caribbean, and I tell it to search. And I've not had any contact with them. I'm bummed. All right. How about this place over in Europe? Where did it go? I saw it a minute ago. Sweden. Woohoo! So I've had some contacts with Sweden. Do you see how the search feature works? I could narrow it down and say that I only want contacts with Sweden on 20 meters. And now when I search, all those 40-meter contacts, other bands go away. Questions on the search? Okay. I do use the award feature, and I'll show you how I use it. I'm going to look at, so I'm going to start at record 26,325. That is the SST from Friday. And then there's a few POTAs in there. I did some POTAs before and after SST. So I go to award, state, counties, etc. And I want to start with record number 26325 up to the last one. Not going to worry about whether it's been confirmed. I know they're all CW, so I'm not going to worry about that. I could take that out and just blank it out. And then I tell it calculate. And it's going to go through there. And so here are the states that I worked. Well, that's kind of, okay. But if you tell it to view the map, those are the states that I worked during the SST on Friday and Sunday. And that's a lot more fun to drag your wife down to the radio room and say, hey, look what I did. Well, that's just a good way of putting in your report when you're running or when you've worked in the SST. So Todd, you could easily, Jonathan, you could do your contacts from the SST and make a map out of it, and it's just a lot more fun than looking at the contacts in the log.
Yeah, it's downloading now.
It's working on downloading the mapping?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there is an add-on you have to download. Any questions on X to get out of that? On the award feature? E-log, I log through Club Log through all of these, in fact. Club Log, it's easy. You go online, set up your account. They give you a log password. And I typically just say, log all contacts that have not been uploaded. And there aren't any, I'm current there. And so it would be done. For doing the other logs, for example, log of the world, typically I'll take an event, highlight, and then I tell it to upload to log of the world. I really don't want to do that, but I click here on selected contact, so the contacts that I selected would go up to log of the world. And then I wait a half hour and I look for confirmation. And I do that for log of the world, EQSL, and QRZ. Any questions on logging?
No.
Go ahead.
No, I don't have any questions. My map just showed up as like more of a topographical map. It didn't show up as the. I'll figure that out. It didn't show up with like the states code in, but I'll figure that out later.
All right. You may have to restart AC log to get it to put that add-on as a feature. Recall. I've only used this one time, and that was when I had made an entry here, and I realized that I looked at it, I had fat-fingered the call sign, maybe a couple of times. Saying recall takes the last entry in the log, and let me get up to the last entry, puts it back into the log here so you can make corrections. Not a high volume use thing. Net. Anybody here net control? ever? Gordon, I think you are, aren't you, for your club net?
I have been on the net. In fact, that was on tonight. And I was watching an N3FJP video on net, and
Okay.
found it very interesting.
Yeah. Michelle and I have net duty occasionally, so we just open this up, and it will bring up a separate, it's built right into AC Log. It brings up a separate logging application. And boy, it's up on the, I'm looking at it over here. It's up and running. So it's just a log. As people check into the net, or you net name up here, you have to disable rig control, because then it picks up the information out of there.
So you have to put it at none? Have to put it at none?
Correct.
Okay.
And so it's 2-meter band. It is FM. Frequency would be 147.020. And typically we're about 25 watts. So as people check into the net, I put their call sign in, and it fills in the rest for me. And I can touch the down arrow, it fills it in, moves me to the next spot. Or I can touch tab, and it fills it in. And then as you go back through, during the net, what we do is we just click out here at the end of the information there, write our comments, and then we copy the whole log to a clipboard and email it into the net manager. The other nice thing is when we're done with the net, we tell it save and close, and that puts the net activity into my master station log. I don't want to do that.
Can you make a hard copy of that? Can you print it out? Maybe you'd have to do a screenshot?
What you do is you copy it to clipboard and then paste that into an editor and then print from there.
Okay, so you could paste that into a writing program.
Yeah, Word or Notepad. I use Notepad++.
Okay.
So yeah, I copy the clipboard, drop it into a text editor, and then we save it as a document, a PDF document.
Then you could email it to one of the other
to the net net manager. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so that's
I like that feature.
That's a handy little feature that's built in for free.
Yeah, that's cool.
Out of view. Oh, nuts. I clicked on the wrong part and saved it. I'll have to take that out later. When you go into view, there's a number of things that are real handy here. In July is the 13 colony event. And when you bring this up, these are color coded so that if they're, I'm going to say this wrong, if they're red, they've never been worked and they're not on the air. If they're blue, you've worked them. If they're green, they're on the air, but you've not worked them. And so this will pop up, and whatever frequency and band they're on, you click on it, and that will move it into your log. And if they were actually there, the frequency would go in there. I forgot to mention this. Once you set up the rig control, you want to save it so that then you can come in here and you can say, all right, I have 7300 saved here for COM3.
And those 13 colonies, those are all special event stations?
Correct. Okay, that's not going to work. You know why? That radio is turned off. This radio is on. So yes, they all use a K whatever designation, except TM1 is in France because they were on our side when we had that little conflict with England. GB1 is in England. WM3 is in Philadelphia, where the First Continental Congress was. And then each of these stations are in the original 13 colonies. So when you click on it, it will set it up, and it would put it in the frequency that they're reporting. They're not actually working, so they're not reporting. Similarly, in September is the Route 66 event. And so again, you can click on the station, puts it into the log. If they were actually there, it would go to their frequency. So I use the heck out of this during those events. If you're doing any study for a license, he has a whole Q&A built in. So you can pick what pool you want and then go through the questions.
Huh.
So if you're, anybody here not an extra? I don't want to be.
Yeah,
Then
I'm
you
working
could,
on, I have my manuals I bought. I'm trying to get it before June.
yeah. So you can go through here and go through the question pool. Which one of the following carrier frequencies is illegal for lower sideband, AFSK, the 17?
Try again.
Say,
Try again.
hey,
Try again.
This would be
Correct.
great for like a study net. We used to do Wednesday night study nets.
Yep.
And this
If
is
you're
like
over
a
Zoom, yeah.
net
Yeah.
controller. Well, no, on air.
Oh, so they would read the question
Yeah.
and people
I'll
would
read
respond.
the question and they answer.
Yep.
And I'd have the answers in front of me there. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So this way you can go through the question pool, Jonathan, and it might be beneficial.
nice.
All right. That's about it that I really want to cover. Gray line map I never turn on. Everybody look out your window. According to the map, it's dark out there. All right.
But it looks cool.
It does. I got just a handful of things to cover with you. And here's one. This is something that I just kind of developed. And for example, I'm running on a frequency and Gordon pops up and I want to work him. And so it used to be I would have to dial the radio to his frequency, work him, and then dial the radio back to my frequency. And while you're doing all that, you can actually lose your frequency when you're running. So to do that quickly, and I'll use the SST log as an example. So I'm running on my frequency, and if you look at that, it says before you do anything, tune your radio to the frequency you're going to run on. And then before you make any contacts, put your call sign into the call box. So I get on frequency where I'm going to run, and it says I'm on 3586.5. I'm going to put that down at least into a, there we go. That's at least in a CW. All right. So I put my call sign in there, and there's a feature, Control H, that is a hold box. There's an old. So I'm on 14075, tells me that right here. And it put me up here in the hold box. And let's say that Gordon's on 14028. So most of you would probably reach over on the dial on your radio and tune in 14028, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you type 14028 here because rig control is turned on to the API that talks to AC log that's running in the background that talks to the radio. And as soon as I touch it, I just I just tuned the radio to 14028.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
And then I work AA7TQ, and he doesn't hear me. So I park him, put him on hold, and I left click back on my box. Escape will clear that out. I run my frequency for a little while. I keep it for me. And then I go back.
Put him on hold?
Control H.
So
then I go back
later. Mm-hmm.
I go back to Gordon here 5 minutes later, and that tunes to his frequency, puts him in the call box. I try calling him. He doesn't hear me, so I touch escape. And I left click on my frequency, and I'm back on my frequency of 075.
Oh, that's neat.
10 minutes later, I call Gordon. I get him. Woohoo. So now I've got a valid contact. I save that contact and notice it takes him out of the hold box. But I'm still there, so I click on me and I go back there. And so then I try this AE5EZ. Try calling him. He doesn't hear me. Control H, parks him. Puts me back in here, and I go again. So you can enter a frequency here. It doesn't make an entry in the logbook, but it tunes your radio to that frequency. That feature is true on all of the logs. I'm on 14028. I'm on ACL. So I'm going to go to 21028, type it into the call box, touch enter, watch the frequency. I'm on 21028, and looking at the radio, I am on 21028. And that's because you got rig control turned on. Oh, last thing to cover. Where is my NAQP? Is that if you end up, I didn't get Roger, he's still in there. If I right click on him, it removes him. Left click will put that into motion to where you can be on that frequency, work them. Right click clears it out.
So this is something like we could use on the SST, like if we see like 3 of our classmates spotted or something. You just kind of go
every SST I use this.
Makes sense.
Every SST, because I try to work Gordon and Jeremy and Todd if he's running. If Roger were to be running and he showed up on the beacon, because I watch for him, then I would jump to him. But I've got my frequency. The very first thing I do is I set it up so that I'm up here in this on hold. And in all honesty, I take that, tuck it up here out of the way.
Only time I run is during CWT. After everybody's gone over to 40 meters out, I'll call on 20, but that's about it.
Yeah, I do. I'll run on CWT at the 11 o'clock or midnight session, but I'm always running on SST. All right, so that was a feature I kind of wanted to share with you. This is something that I've known about putting people on hold for a long time, but when I've tried to work Gordon or Jeremy or somebody that popped up, sometimes I've lost my running frequency because I didn't get back there quickly enough. This, I mean, is nearly instantaneous. So another feature, and this will be up there. I'm going to send out a link to the slides, so you'll have this in there if you can't remember it. But Control H puts whatever's in the logger on hold. then you do have to touch escape to get it out of there. So if I put, oh, let's see, whoops, I'm not in the box. So if I put KC8, what is it, HCF in there, by convention, I do all my logging all uppercase, and he's running, but he doesn't hear me. I park him, Control H. He's right there, and I can go back and forth to him. After you park him, you have to touch escape to clear the box. You could go up and click on the clear thing, but that's too much work. Another little feature, in the good old days, when we had paper logs and we did something significant, we would write a log entry. If Gordon came over to visit me and he was control operator at my station, I would make a note on my paper log, because the FCC could come in and say, hey, somebody was cussing and the direction finder pointed at you. And I would look at my log and say, oh, yeah, it was that guy Gordon. He's got a potty mouth. And it would be in my station log, and it was proof that I didn't do it. So now that we've switched over to electronic logging, how do you make those comments? The way I do it, and it's something that I hit on a while back. So I am in the wrong area. I'm actually now on my live station log. And so what I do is I search for NB70, touch tab, it'll bring up all my previous contacts with myself. And that doesn't make any sense, does it? Making a contact with yourself? But if you look at it, here is a log entry where I wasn't transmitting, but I did the encrypted message on the Maritime Historical Society. So I made a note that I did that on that date.
Do you just have to be real careful when you submit your logs to not get those in there too?
What I do is, okay, here's an entry back in, oh, by the way, you right click on that, that brings up the edit mode. And so on that entry, I started attending the CW Academy class. And so as soon as I make that entry on the log and touch enter, I right click on it, bring it up, and I put in here all of the possible logging combinations that I could. And so it would never ever get sent up there. If I try to send it, it'll give me an error message saying, hey dude, you already put that up there. So I have to manually do that. But, you know, I'm not doing this every day, multiple times a day. It's just occasional. So this is the way, and this is where Michelle was a control operator for the net. And she logged that she had a contact with me. And so down inside there, it would say that Michelle was control op. Here's where I put the 7300 in service, took my 746 out, and it's now on standby over in the rack. So put your call sign in as the station you're working, make your comment, go ahead and put in here whatever logger you're logging you're using, EQSL, QRZ, log of the world. B is for club log. C is that I sent a card. Put them all in there, and it'll never go to any of the online loggers. Just a quick way that you can search for those comments that we used to put on paper. Hunting POTA. How many of you hunt POTA? I do a lot of it for CW. It gives me good practice, gives them points. I encourage people to work POTA, especially if you're a new operator. Normally it's below 20 word per minute. And here's how I do it. And so I'm going back on the live. I'm going to block you all out for a second. My apology. So I bring up the POTA app website where it tells who's on the air. And it says, here's an operator who's in K-1010. I put that right into the POTA identifier. And remember way back when I said under settings, list matches for these fields. And the other one is my SIG info. So when I touch tab, it's going to search my entire log and tell me if I've ever worked that park. And it says on July 8th, 2023, I worked it. So then he's on 14033.5. Tune the radio up there. Barely hear him. So I'm not going to put a lot of effort into working him. I just can't hear him. So I clear that one out. I look back on the internet and it says there's somebody in park, and you got to put it's got to be an exact match. You can't just put the numbers in. 4818. And I got fat fingered in there. And when I touch tab, it says, yep, I worked him just a few days ago. So he's on 14052.0. That tuned up my radio to that frequency. I just can't hear him. Not going to try. Get rid of that attempt. And then I see that somebody is out there on K2526. Oh, I've never worked him. And he is on 14052.5. Touch it. Notice it tuned up the radio there. And I can hear pretty good signal. So I put his call sign in. Touch tab, it starts filling things in. First thing I do is, before I even try and call him, I'm hearing him about a 579. And then he puts out his CQ. And I say, somehow or other I've killed my keyer. I would send my call sign. And then we work each other. We get the exchange, and I log the contact. And then a quirk that I have is that I go in, right click, and I make a comment that that is a POTA. And I come up here. I say it is a POTA. And then from the POTA web page, I copy the information about the park so that it looks like this. I have the, oops, cut off the K. K1919, Stephen Foster Folk Culture State Park in Florida. So that's all the information about that contact. That's how I do my POTA. I use this field here to see if I've worked them. If I've not worked them, I put a lot of effort into working them. If I haven't, or if I have worked them, not as much effort. I might be the 10th contact for them if I work them, even though I've worked that park before. So if I can hear them, I do try to help them out. Thanks for hanging in, Gordon.
You bet, you bet. I hope my hard drive is not over full.
Because I've finished.
Great presentation, Kevin. Thank you.
It's excellent.
Yes, sir.
Really,
You
really
covered
good.
my other question with the map, so that was good.
Okay. Before we close this all out, this will probably, the questions might stay in, but any lasting questions that I can try and cover? I've got a note to look at that RBN problem, and I'll send out an email to the group if I get an answer.
Yeah, something about the number of
Yeah,
ones you can return to or something like that. So.
yeah. I know, I meant questions. Any other part of the log? Remember, AC log is your foundation. Make it work with your radio, and then make all the other contest logs work with AC log through the API.
You got plenty to digest right now.
Well, and that's why I want to make a video. It's not going to be a public video. It's just for this group.
I've got a quick question, but it's non-log related about.
Okay, let's finish log, Mick, and I'll come back to you, and anybody who wants can hang around. Okay, no other questions? Everybody's brain is burned out, right?
Yeah, we're done. I'm baked.
Yeah,
I've got to go have something to eat.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock for JR, and what time is it back there, Roger? Midnight?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's getting late.
Yeah, it's
all right.
Almost midnight. I got to get out of here.
All right, Mick, what's your question?
Have you given up on using your LDG tuner?
Oh, no.
How are you controlling the tuner then from the logging software?
With that script that I showed you?
Can you control an external tuner with the 7300?
Absolutely.
Well, that's a different conversation. We have to have that one then. Good. Okay.
Okay, so in F11, just so that we're consistent, type that in. You have to make your CW keying work. So you have to either have a wind keyer or you've got to have a port available. The ICOM 7300 has 2 ports. One of them you're using for rig control. You can use the other one for your CW keying.
Yeah, that's all set up, but I'm just wondering about you tuning your antenna.
Right there.
Okay.
You put that into one of the function keys, and that will cause your tuner to activate, and it will run until it has a match, and then it shuts off.
Okay. This I do not understand. I don't understand. I understand if you could do this if the tuner you were using was the 7300 tuner. But
No,
how are you getting controls to?
Because the LDG plugs into the 7300 tuner port. When you plug a tuner into there, it shuts off the internal tuner.
Okay, got it. Mine does
And whatever
not. That's
tuner is plugged into the tuner port on the back of the radio, this command will activate it.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that
So,
clears it up.
if I had my AH4 plugged into that, then it would activate the AH4.
Right.
If my AT180 was plugged in, it would activate it. Whatever's plugged in there would get activated. If nothing's plugged in there, then it would use the internal tuner.
Right.
Okay, so it could be any external tuner. It doesn't have to be the LDG.
Correct. If you can touch the tuner button on the front of the radio, and it activates that external tuner, this will work.
Yeah,
and I've confirmed it works on the 705, and it works on the not on the 706.
I've got an external tuner, an LDG external tuner.
Yep.
Out on the pole.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you got is it plugged into your tuner port on your radio?
No.
How are you activating it? Is it self-activating?
Yeah, it's manually from the front. I've got to turn the power off and turn it back on again.
So you have to go out to the pole?
No, I can turn off. I've got a controller here beside the radio. I turn the power off to the controller, and that resets the entire external tuner. it'll come up and tune itself for that frequency.
All right. So let's say you're on 20 meters working the SST.
Yep.
20 meter dies and you want to move to 40.
Yep.
You tune your radio to a 40 meter frequency.
Right.
How do you get your tuner to activate?
Well, first of all, I set the radio to RTTY, turn the power down to like 5 or 6 watts. Then I hit the transmit button on the front of the radio so that I'm transmitting something. Then I go up to the controller of the tuner and I turn it off and turn it back on again. So it resets the tuner, the external tuner, and it tunes the antenna.
This would probably still work. The difference is it doesn't put out a RTTY signal, but it does reduce power to, I think, 3 watts. It automatically reduces power to 3 watts. It puts you into a CW key down mode, so it puts a signal out there. And then you would have to reach over, turn off the tuner like you would normally do, turn it back on, and it should then tune.
Oh, that's a good thought. Run it that way. Use it. Okay.
Yeah. What you may have to do, though, what you may have to do if this auto feature doesn't work, what you may have to do is use this part where instead of the end of it being 0102, you would put 0101 in there. That would turn on the tune feature permanently, leave it on, and then on another function key you'd have to put 0100, and that would turn it off.
That's a good idea. Yep.
So what you would do is, let's say F11 is this one, that turns it on.
Yeah.
And then you manually do your operation with the tuner, and then you would turn it back off with here. And that way you're not futzing around with going to RTTY and the transmit button and all that.
Be a great idea. Thank you. Wonderful thought.
I know that this second method will work. I don't know about the first where it is done automatically.
Okay.
But that turns your power down when you use the tune feature of your radio. Turns power down. I think it's 3 watts. Puts it into a CW key down mode, constant carrier. Your tuner then would tune, and then when it's tuned, then you would shut the tuner back off if you're doing it manually. And that would put you back up to whatever power you had selected originally.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Anything else? Gordon, you're awesome tonight, sticking with me. Thank you. So if you don't get the video link for a few days, guys, don't panic. Remember the class motto.
Don't panic.
Don't panic. All right, gentlemen, you've been awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for sticking with me. I knew it would run long. I told Michelle it might be 9 o'clock. Well,
Yeah.
it's 10 o'clock.
Thanks for putting this together.
Kevin, you gave us excellent information. So
Yeah, it's really
just got
valuable.
to digest it by going over the video.
I think once you get the video, if you can go back through it, you've always got me as a resource.
Yeah.
If something doesn't work out, ping me and I'll get a reply to you.
I'm really pleased with how mine's working now, so much more knowledgeable about what's going on.
Thank you all for joining me. I enjoyed the evening. I'll look forward to another event. Next one that I'm working on is how to use a nano VNA.
Wonderful.
Cool. I have one
Very
of those.
good. Okay, Kevin, thank you. Good night.
You're right. Good night, Gordon. Good night, JR. Good night, Mick.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Next time.
Yep, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure always. I always enjoy getting together with you.
Yeah, I enjoy it too.
All right.
Okay.
Good night, sir. Well, good morning. It's the morning after we got together to talk about using N3FJP's logging suite. And my apology, I think it might have been Todd, asked the question, what do you do with your logs after the event or contest is over? And there's not a proscribed method, but I thought I would share what I do, and you can either follow that or adjust it a little bit to match what you like, or completely ignore it. But let me offer and show you what I do with the log after event. And I'm going to use this morning's AWT log and the CWT log. The AWT event started at 4 in the morning, and the CWT event started at 5 in the morning. So I just saved them, and now the CWT is over. And let me show you what I do with those logs after the event. So I'm going to switch over, and I'm looking now at my radio desk, and here's the log from the AWT. So I'm actually pretty good. Normally I don't get this many contacts at 4 in the morning between here and Japan. And so the first thing I do is I export that file, that log, into an ADI format. Pardon me, a removable drive that's connected to the radio desk computer. And so I'm using the Affirmatech backup directory, and in that directory I have created directories for all of the major events, and if a new event comes along, I'll create a directory for it. So I go into the directory for the event, and here's the AWT event, and then I have one for each year, and so we're in 2024. And so I'm going to save this as the AWT, and it was on 02/07/2024. And then it will ask for some additional information. And now I have saved a copy of this log in ADI format, and I can pull that back into the log, and I can quickly go through it again if I need to. After I get this done, then I would move it into my AC log. However, I'm going to wait and do that in the next segment when I show you how I move files from an event or contest log into AC log. So then the next step I would take would be to go into the 3830 score and enter that information. So it was the A1 Club AWT event, and I always get a copy. And I ran high power this morning because the band wasn't great, and I operated for 30 minutes, and on 80 meters I had 2, and on 40 meters I had 4. So on 82 and 44, grand total of 6 multipliers, 36 contacts. And then submit it up there. And then typically what I would do would tell it that I am done with that log and tell it to start over. And that way it would reuse the same database log name, logdata.mdb, the next time I use the NAQP software for NAQP, SST, or the AWT. So I'll clear that out. and I'm done with that. So to recap again, here's what I do after an event. Here's the CWT. So I export the ADI file, and it's going to go on that removable drive. It's a high capacity USB drive, and it goes into the Affirmatech backup directory. And this is a CWOP CWT, and it's a 2024. So it is CWOPS CWT, and it was 02/07/2024, and this was the 1300 Zulu CWT. And a little more information, I've run 100 watt on the CWT, and I changed this a little bit. Oops. So, and then tell it to continue. And now that information is put into a ADI file on a removable drive that I could recall at any time. And if there's a question or comment about my activity during that, I can pull the log up and review that. So that is what I do after an event to store the log. So that should cover that, I hope. I'd be glad to take more questions on what I do with a log after the event or contest is over. And then after I have moved the, after I've done my 3830 score, after I've created the ADI file, next thing I do is to move the information out of the contest logger, event logger, to AC log, so it's in my permanent station record. And so going back over here, I'm going to leave that data so we can do it again. I'm going to show you how I retrieve the data and stick it back in here. Normally it would still be there. So now I am going to import an ADI file. That's just a warning that if you're networked and you import files, it could mess up people. And it is stored on that USB drive in the Affirmatech backup directory. It was an AWT event, happened this year, and it was the 7th. And so it just quickly pulls that back in. So now I'm ready to take this information and put it into my permanent station log so that I have a copy of it here. Notice that the last contact here is W7IY, and we want to put these 6 contacts from the AWT over here. And so it's file and then transfer via API. Remember, we set up that API so that the event and contest loggers can talk to each other back and forth. And this is a real quick way to get the contacts from your contest or event log into your permanent station log. You're going to transfer the data via API. So select it. It'll tell you what computer and what database you're connected to, and if that's where you want it to go, you tell it yes. The same questions over again as before. This just says that it was NV70 doing the operation. I was running 300 watts this morning on it, and it was the AWT. And when I tell it to continue, that quickly it transferred the information out of my contest log into my permanent station log. I'm using the NAQP logger to log my AWT because the exchange is close. The exchange for the AWT is a signal report and your name. And so I hand send a signal report and my name. I usually operate at 25 word per minute in the AWT, and so it's pretty easy to hand send. But notice it says that this was done during the SST, and it was not. It was done during the AWT, and so this will let me show you how I use this bulk edit feature that Scott Davis has put into the log. So I am going to start with record number 26,385. And it's going to go to the last record because that's the last one I need to change. It is the contest ID field. So it's this field here. So I tell it contest ID field. And I want to change it from K1USN-SST to AWT. I could say that the case must match, but I generally don't worry about that. I tell it to begin the bulk edit. It says, "Do you sure you want to do this?" And I am sure I want to do it. And so I tell it yes. And you'll see the green bar as it works its way across. And then if you watch up here, you'll see it start to do the editing. And so it did a few edits, and I'm done. And now all of those contest IDs have been edited using the bulk edit feature, and it now says AWT rather than the SST. So now this is permanently in my station log, and from here I go ahead and upload them to the online logging systems. So here I'm putting it into the log of the world. You know that it went up there successfully when you see this message, final status, success 0. I don't know why they don't put in there the actual number of contacts that you uploaded in there, but you always get this same message. So I know it was successful, and so I am done. And then the next thing I do is mark them up again, and I upload the EQSL, and it keeps all the information in there about my login and password. And this was the AWT, and I told it to upload the selected contacts. And so it actually uploads them, and then it sends back a message and confirms that it received it. So these have gone now to green to indicate that it has been uploaded to one of the online log services. Next, I am going to upload to QRZ. And QRZ automatically picks up the comment field, so I don't need to retype it. And now the QRZ is going up. QRZ does not confirm receipt when you send it up like EQSL does. So next I do a club log, and here I just tell it anything not uploaded, go ahead and put it up there, and you can see that it put the 6 contacts up there, added a B to the confirmed field. It does confirm right then, and I'm done with it. So the next step I do is go out and check its rating, updating the database, and that's why it can't respond. So next thing I do is I check EQSL to see has anybody confirmed my contact by uploading their card, and I have one here that this was not, oh yeah, this was done today. Yep, that was an 80-meter contact. And oh, this is in here because I've not uploaded my CWT, and I did work KC7V. in the CWT. So that'll get fixed in a minute. So I have two, these were from the CWT, and that's why they're showing up. And this is showing red, showing I uploaded my contact and he uploaded his contact, and now I have an actual confirmation of the contact through EQSL. So the next thing to do is check the QRZ log, and in here I should see, here's what I uploaded. That shows that it confirms it has it. None of them confirmed though through QRZ. So there's no change in here. And then the last thing I do is check log of the world. And it should by now have that in there. And JR2AWS did confirm through log of the world. So now I have that contact confirmed two ways. So if I look at that contact, it'll show confirmed by EQSL and log of the world. So that is what I do with my event logs. I push them up to AC log using the API. So here is the CWT that I want to upload. So these are the contacts this morning that I had in the CWT, and now I want to move them to the permanent log. And so I'm going to transfer via API. Again, tells me what computer and database it'll go into. That is the correct one. I did run 100 watts during the CWT. And again, I changed this comment. The reason I do that is the CWOps has more than just the CWT. And so I want to distinguish what the event is a little more specifically than just saying CWOps. So when I tell it to continue, just that quickly now, all of my entries from the CWT are over here in my permanent station log. So I'm not going to bore you with showing you how I put those up on the various online logs. We've already done that. I would just say that after I'm done here, I do delete the log so it's all ready to go for me when I start over again. So I have now moved CWT and AWT entries, contacts into my permanent station log. So I am done, other than now I need to go into AC log and upload these to the online loggers. I'm not going to bore you with doing that again. You've seen that once already. I still have to go to 3830 scores for the CWT. That's up here on the other monitor. I still have to come in here and do that. So I would come down, find the 1300 CWOps CWT, and fill in the information and upload it. I'll do that after I close out this recording. So I'm sorry I can't take questions on this process. I did do it twice so that you could see how I moved the information from the contest or event logger into AC log. I did show you on both of them how I keep them stored permanently. They're stored in the removable drive as an ADI file, ADIF file. It's in the backup directory. And obviously I put them on the removable drive. And so if there's a problem with my fixed drive on my radio desk computer, I've still got these. I just unplugged the USB cable and I've got it. So here would be my CWOps CWT for 2024. There it is right there. And if you want, you can look at these with a text editor. You don't have to open it up in the actual log. You can look at it in a text editor because it is a plain text document. So here's the way an ADA file looks. It just stores the information about each contact, one after the other. So hopefully that was helpful to you. And obviously, if you have questions, please reach out to me and ask your questions, and I will be glad to work with you. Thank you oh so much for spending many hours with me last night. I knew it would be at least 2 hours. It turned into a 3-hour run. I know that some of you were up later than normal, and I really, really, truly appreciate you sticking with me. As I mentioned before, the next little discussion session that I'm working on is using the Nano VNA, and I'm going to show you how to check the SWR of an antenna and to check a coax run for an open or short. So it'll be a much, much shorter evening when we do that. Thank you all very much for the evening, and I will end this now, and I will see you at a Sunday social. I'll see you on the air or somewhere out and about. 7-3 to everybody, NV70 clear.